Hello guys, and welcome back to another Tweaker Man video. Today we're looking at a set of Russ Andrews Quave LS1 loudspeakers. Now these are an unusual loudspeaker and we'll get onto that a bit later. But let's get on to the basics first. So the tweeter is a focal inverted dome tweeter, and it also has one of Russ Andrews' felt rings around it. Now the felt ring is very similar to what they put around a BBC LS1's monitor. Russ Andrews, he sells these felt. They're like an egg shape, or just an oval, I should say, felt ring that goes over, and it's meant to make the treble not so harsh. So then moving down, we have I think it's about 9 3/4 or 9.5 inch driver woofer, mid-range woofer. It's a paper cone, and you come in closely there. Instead of the outer rings, which are usually made of usually either foam, or a lot of them these days are made of rubber. This is made of some sort of harder material, flexes still. So that's all I know. I know that these cones are made in Scotland. That's all I can tell you. I've tried to do as much research on these, but these speakers are a bit rare. There was only so many of them made. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to turn them round and show you the back of the speaker before we get on to any sound quality or anything else. So here we are at the back of the speaker. So there you can see your negative and positive there, and underneath it's a very unusual thing. It's got an earth. So these speakers, they need to be earthed, and I'll go on a bit about that a bit later. But as you can see, they're a very unusual shape as well. Right, okay, so what I'm going to show you next is quite interesting. So let's go to that bit. So this is the underneath of the speaker. It's totally open, and to my mind this looks like it's some sort of horn design. So you can see there where the wires come from the crossover at the bottom there, and they go up into the woofer, but obviously you can't see the woofer. And this is some sort of fiberboard dampening material on there, as you can see there. So it's a very, very unusual design. This is the first time I've seen anything unusual like this. There isn't many speakers like this. So let's lift them back up again. So going on to the sound of these speakers, they take a little bit of getting used to. So at first when I plugged them in, I never had the earth connected, and they sounded very strange. They had a very hollow bass. Everything was quite distant, which in one terms was very nice, but in another term the bass was quite bass-like. And then I added the earth wire, and what a difference. The bass came into focus, and the soundstage is wonderful, the atmosphere. So one of the albums I used to review these speakers was this one here, Jazz at the Pawn Shop 30th Anniversary. That's a wonderful recording. This is on SACD, and since I've got the Sony as well, the SACD player, I realised why when I ran my audio business, I was doing all my testing on SACD. Absolutely fabulous sound quality. It's in the same league as the audiophile pressings, but with no background noise, no clicks, no pops, nothing, just silence. Really, really wonderful. So the atmosphere is what really knocked my socks off. You could hear a pin drop right in the distance. These have got so much depth to these speakers. You sit there, especially if there's a drumming in the background. I have a couple of recordings. My uncle was really into sort of experimental albums that showed off the qualities of a good system. And the distant drumming is just absolutely wonderful. On the bass is unusual because this is a very small room of 9 by 11, which is in real terms as a listening room. It's very, very small, but I have to work with what I've got. So from a 9 3/4 inch woofer, or I suppose they would class this as a 10-inch woofer, you'd expect to get that real deep bass. But you don't. It's more of a natural bass. That's the only way I can explain it. You don't get that punchy bass that comes from a stand mount that came from the GS10s of mine. This is a lot more natural bass. It does go down low, but it's not boomy. There's no boom to it at all. It's really, really a lovely bass. Now, I reviewed those without the super tweeters. I'm going to do a separate video on the super tweeters. But just to say, as soon as I added the super tweeters, the Townshend super tweeters, the bass actually become even better. Now, you wouldn't have thought that would happen because really the super tweeters are for getting those really high frequencies which SACD can produce. So I switched to a classical piece. This is one of those sort of albums, the most relaxing classical album in the world ever. This is just a standard CD, and still sounded wonderful. Didn't have that edge that I find SACD does. It's not got the same level of detail, depth, width, soundstage. It's still very, very good though. So got out of focus a bit there, but the SACD does really have the edge over a standard CD. I totally forgot on a decent player how good that they actually sound. So my uncle was using Russ Andrews 24 crystal copper speaker cable. Now I tried it on there. And at the moment I'm in the process of producing the 10mm vari-strand silver cladded copper, which is probably one of the best speaker cables in the world. You may laugh, but I'm serious. I didn't really think that much of these the Russ Andrews speaker cables, so I've just wired them up to my 6mm silver cladded speaker cable, and these speakers are not bar wireable. So at the moment I've been driving them with the using the Arcam Alpha 10 integrated amplifier as a preamp, and using the Arcam Alpha 10 power amp to drive them. Now the quad 405 has got to have some work done to it because there's a fault there, which I've tried to sort out myself, but unfortunately it's just a bit above my grade really. So that's going to go into be repaired. I'm going to drop that off tomorrow. But all in all, these are very good speakers. The only thing is, at the moment, they're not at the right height for me. They need to be lifted by about 6 inches. So I'm going to be making some bases for them to sit onto, so the spikes can go into some pieces of metal so they don't damage the floor as well. And I'm going to be lifting that up to exactly the right height. Now, these speakers, if you pull them out and put them in a really big area, they seem to lack bass. If you push them into a corner more, the bass becomes more deeper and more powerful, but naturally more powerful, not that boomy bass that you get from some big speakers. I was expecting to put these in this room 9 by 11 and find they just sounded really, really boomy because they're quite a large cabinet. And but because they've got that open base to them at the bottom, and it's like a horn design, I'm sure that's what it is. Well, he calls them the Quave LS1's. Now, if you look on the internet or you go onto eBay, they're very rare, these speakers. He couldn't have produced many of them. And I happened to find a review in Hi-Fi Choice magazine from 2004. And they said that they give them a very, very good review. So, what did Hi-Fi Choice say about them? So, this is just a little sum up. The LS1 does have more character than most speakers, and as such exaggerates certain aspects of recordings. Some sound significantly better than usual. The uncompressed live recordings in particular, while others, Rage Against the Machine springs to mind from the test period, are less successful. Separately, these are interesting products which some serious strengths, but together they come into their own. Well, they give them a very good review overall. So I wouldn't say they were the last word in audio. The other speakers that I had when I was running the audio business were £8,000. So now these were 2,500 new when my uncle bought them. But all I'm going to say is adding the super tweeter and the earth takes these speakers to the next level. Live recordings sound absolutely wicked. They really sound like you're there. Especially from that SACD player, which I'm going to do a review on as well at some stage. So they have the removable grills here. So originally these grills had some Velcro, some little bits of round Velcro on them, which would have been on the front there, but obviously they stuck to the veneer on the front, and they've obviously come away at a certain time. At some stage, the finishing of the cabinet I wouldn't say was the best. I mean, I know a hell of a lot about wood finishing, and I could finish these a lot better than that, and I probably will. I've got no time at the moment, but these are in a cherry veneer, so I'll either strip them down and do them slightly darker, or I may keep them that colour. I'm not sure yet, because I'm making a new rack. And if you saw something I shared on YouTube a while ago, was a sheet of 24mm birch plywood, which is going to be part of my new rack that I'm building. And I'll either keep it all in that deep dark mahogany colour, or which I probably will, because it matches the turntable and everything else that I've done. And that's what I would probably look for doing on these speakers once they're done. This one over here has had a bit of damage on it. My uncle's obviously knocked it over at some stage there, and at the back there's a slight little dent there. It looks worse on the camera than it actually is, which I should be able to repair quite easy. The cabinet's very thick. It's quite a thick cabinet, and it's well dampened inside. So all in all, I think I've done very well inheriting these. This is going to save me having to buy a set of speakers. Now, when I put the quad power amp on, it took me a while to get both channels going. Now, these speakers definitely suited the quad far better than they do the Arcam. Not to say the Arcam doesn't sound good, it does. But for some reason, that quad was in a different league. And it really brought the recordings, even, they were just, what can I say, they were superb. So I think that's all I've got to say about these speakers. They're very unusual. They're a very unusual design, and there's not many of them about. I've seen a couple were on sale in Europe for around about 1,000. So because Russ Andrews isn't a big brand in speakers, but he claims to know his stuff. I would say about Russ Andrews is he is very good at what he does. He's very good at promoting his products. That's how he gets them around. But with the speakers, I would say it's not a bad price for 2,500 for the sound that comes from these. But when I look at a lot of the cables he produces, very expensive for what you get. I mean, why would you spend a hell of a lot of money on a speaker cable like £1,000? I mean, the new ones that I'm making, they are still expensive to make. These 10mm very strand silver cladded copper, they're going to come in around about £200 to make this set. But if Russ Andrews was selling those, he would be selling them for about £5,000. I mean, you look at some of the cables he sells, utterly ridiculous. You're better off spending your money on better equipment. As a thumb of rule, you should never spend more money on cabling than what your system's worth. So that's all I've got to say on this video. So I hope you like it. I hope you like these speakers. Very interesting. As I say, the woofers were, the information I found out were the woofers were produced by a Scottish company. I don't know who they are. There's no information. Russ Andrews is very secretive about his products. He never lets you know anything about them unless you can get hold of them and undo them, which is very handy because I've got loads of them and I'll be doing videos on all of them and showing the insides of everything and showing you whether they're worth the money or not. So thanks for watching another Tweaker Man video. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to give this video a like. Don't forget to also press that notification bell so you'll be notified every time one of my videos uploads. And thank you for watching, guys and girls.